Shiver, what's the term? Shiver me timbers. Does that even mean you're cold? I don't know. It is pretty fucking cold out here, though. All right. I finally feel motivated, and I finally had the time. So I think it feels right to talk about some more emotional media. And again, I just think about it so much, right? So I just wanted to share a few things. This one is going to be focused on superhero movies. So, pop notebook. Here we are. No particular order. I think I'll talk about some. Fuck, damn it, it's cold. All right, we'll just go down the list from what I wrote. We're gonna talk about the Guardians. Um, I love the Guardians. I feel like I'm finally making the turnaround on Guardians 1. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but compared to 2 and 3, it's the weakest. I don't know if that's like controversial to say, but I think the jump from 1 to 2 is like really big, and then from 2 to 3, but then obviously from like 1 to 3. 2 and 3 are just like so different compared to how Guardians 1 is in terms of emotion, and then also like the look, the humor, the way the music is used. I feel like the music in 2 and 3 is used way better than the music in Guardians 1. God fucking damn it, it's too fucking cold for this shit. Um, yeah, because in the first one, I mean, like, great songs and all that, right? But you have that problem where you're, developing like a whole bunch of new characters, and James Gunn again is like pretty adept at that, and I feel like he develops them well. But again, it's comparison, thief of joy sort of situation for me at least, because I just think 2 and 3 are so much better about that. But Guardians 1 does just give you like those bare bones, and the bones are very strong, given a lot of milk and whatnot. So very strong bones. Very strong bones. With me now, like especially in rewatch, the thing that grabs me, at least emotionally, because this one is more about Peter and getting you into his character. Uh, but the emotional core with him and his mom passing away from cancer, and obviously that comes back at the very end whenever he's told to grab Gamora's hand. At first, the mom like asks for his hand as she's dying, and of course he can't deal with the emotion he was feeling, and the grief of losing his mother. So he runs away. And in this, by the end of it, he finally finds like a family of sorts. After kind of being on his own with the Ravengers, and the Ravengers are kind of like his family, but it's a bit twisted because they're robbers and killers. But like after spending time with Gamora, Groot, Rocket, and Drax, he's building this life for himself finally. Um, and he's able to reach out and grab Gamora's hand, and they all share the power to defeat Ronan. So that's nice. Again, just like sort of cute and simple. But man, Guardians 2, that jump, man, I'm telling you, definitely focused. Between the two, focused on Rocket, focused on Peter. But man, let's start with Peter. Uh, Again, like a lot of this is like still kind of dealing with the idea of like him trying to find a family. And I love the theme that comes up at the very end, and I can't wait to talk about it more because I do want to talk about some animated movies, and there's an animated movie specifically that has a very similar theme. Uh, but with this, I mean, the theme and the kind of lesson learned by the end of it is, like the thing you're searching for is sometimes right in front of you, and looking for that thing, sometimes won't even bring you uh, any type of peace, I guess, because he's looking for this father figure, and he finally finds it, but it's a god that wants to take over the world. That's egg on his face, I guess. But all along he's had Yondu. Yondu's been like this father figure to him. And then of course the Guardians, like all around him, they've been a family to him, and he's just so fixated on this idea of like having a father, having a family, and he can't appreciate what's in front of him. And it's sad in a way, but it's nice that he finally comes to the conclusion. And honestly, that's kind of partially how it is for Rocket. Rocket's also looking for some way to feel included, but he's so kind of damaged. And of course we learn more about it in Guardians 3, but he's so damaged that he can't he just can't accept it for what it is. He can't accept being loved. And of course that also relates to Yondu. Yondu and Rocket are parallels with one another. God damn, it's fucking cold. Yes, leave me shivering. Yeesh. Um, yeah, but with Rocket and Yondu, them being different sides of the same coin, I guess. It's weird because I feel like Yondu, his only family, like sure is his like group of Ravengers and like the old group of Ravengers that he used to hang with, but he gets cut off because of his like selfishness and this emotion within himself to like push people away because he doesn't want to feel close, because of all the pain from his past. And same with Rocket. Rocket's gone through a lot, and he just can't accept any kind of niceties, any type of love. So he pushes people away. It's a coping mechanism so you don't get hurt. And it's sad, but that confrontation between Yondu and Rocket is very good. Again, man, like that scene is so great, and you sometimes forget too. It's like, dude, these are like animated like fucking characters, but they're giving me more emotion than than like most things in reality sometimes. I like it whenever Yondu is like picking them apart. And like Rocket's defenses, I mean, he's always so like quick and like quippy and sarcastic, but he's so vulnerable in this moment and extremely defensive, and it's such a different sight to see from him. And again, sad in a way, because like he's especially with the voice acting, he's like on the verge of tears almost, like having all of this like laid back to him. But then it becomes softer and becomes more of a bonding moment whenever Yondu says, well, that's me too. The reason why I know you so well is because that's me. Nice moment. Yeah, and then Yondu death, pretty sad, not gonna lie. But again, I do like and appreciate this like respect that Rocket's grown to have for Yondu, and just seeing Yondu as like a proper like friend. Um, and then obviously again, it's sad too whenever Gamora is like going back out to save Peter, but then Rocket like shoots her in the back to keep her there. He's like finally kind of stepping into more of like a leadership role, and he's making like a hard choice. To preserve himself in a way, because it's that line he says, I can only afford to lose one friend today. And of course, he's talking about Peter, but, even Yondu to an extent. Obviously, Peter would be a closer friend to... Oh, no, that's a complete lie. That was, like, total, like, media illiteracy. He knows Yondu's going to save Peter, so he's losing Yondu. My bad. But yeah, great scene. And then I guess jumping back on to Peter, all of this stuff with Gamora, I especially like. And man, like in this movie too, like they just make Gamora such a fleshed out character, her relationship to Nebula, and then Nebula's character development as well, like her becoming a bit softer to Gamora, and then it's nice to see that relationship kind of stay, throughout the movies, Infinity War, Endgame, and then into Guardians 3, and like how it shifts. But it's sad, really. Again, like kind of looking for something that's right in front of you all along. Nebula and Gamora grew up together in this like kind of tortured environment, so that makes them sisters, in a way. but they're like pitted against each other, so they have like a resentment towards one another, and but they both still want a kind of like bond. Um, and by the end of this movie, they finally kind of get it. But also with Nebula too, being like kind of related in some way to Rocket and Yondu, she literally does push Gamora away. She's so committed to her own goals and ideas. Like she feels like she doesn't have time for like emotion, or at least in the moment, right? So yeah, she pushes Gamora away and goes off to kill Thanos, and then of course we see what happens in Infinity War. Uh, but yeah, and Nebula's such a great character too. I like everything they do with Nebula, uh, and then in Guardians 3 as well, like fleshing her out like even more. But yeah, she's a great character, and Gamora in this is very nice as well. Also, just pretty looking movie compared to the first. I feel that the first is a bit like darker, like color wise. This movie's like super bright and playful. Um, but yeah, so Gamora's relationship with Peter, the the unspoken thing, kind of like this like ongoing joke, but very funny. But then also just character development for Gamora, like being more emotionally open after she's been so closed off due to her upbringing. Um, yeah, but back to Peter, because Peter's another emotional core. Obviously, his relationship with Gamora, but then his relationship to Yondu and to his actual father, Ego. Again, he's looking for this father figure for so long, and he finally finds it, and of course it's a bit twisted, right? But he's also able to do like some of the things he's always wanted to do, like play catch and stuff like that. I like it, after the fact, whenever just like small lines Peter has when either talking to Yondu or whenever he's confronting Ego. Uh, Obviously, whenever what is it, "Break the Chain" or "The Chain" by Fleetwood Mac plays, but Peter just says, "You shouldn't have killed my mom and squished my Walkman." It's a funny moment, but obviously very emotional for him. And then he goes off to fight Yondu, or whenever Yondu comes over or goes over to fight Ego, and then whenever Yondu comes over to save him, um, Yondu is like kind of asking him like how it was like meeting his dad, just kind of showing that he cares, even though like all this like crazy shit's going on. But Peter's like, yeah, I made a ball, and it's like a ball. But then it also leads into to like the lesson that Peter ends up taking. Like I don't use the arrow to, or like, I don't use my like head to make the arrow fly. I use my heart. It's all about emotion, using the emotion as a power. But that's something I like too, especially in superhero movies, man. Like the callbacks, or is it callback or call forward? But planting something that eventually gets used as like character motivation, or like a way to kind of solve the problem. Um, but yeah, so like Yondu's able to impart that kind of wisdom onto Peter at the very least, and then Yondu sacrifices himself for Peter. Like the line, it's what is it? Uh, he may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy. Man, that guy is crazy. What's his name? Michael Rooker. It's funny because like the only other things you really see him in is like he's like playing a racist typically, but dude, he is acting crazy in this one. I love the moment as well when they're on that one planet before they get the offer from the from the Golden People. Uh, yeah, but they're on that planet and he confronts Sylvester Stallone's character. Uh, but like it's like another thing too, where like they kind of push like Yondu away just because like Yondu fucked up with them. But that like emotion, that rage that he brings out in that moment, the "oh, you can go to hell then." Um, it's crazy good, man. Um, and like there's the Yondu fans out there, and they give Yondu his credit, but man, dude, that dude deserves some credit. He's fucking good in this movie. So shout out to Michael Rooker. Um, but yeah, again, everything is just like so good in this. Like lots of like little great moments, and again, like song choice is really good too. There's a really good use of a song at the beginning after they leave from defending the batteries. uh, and it's just like Rocket, but he's like typing something up like in the nav so they can like lift off. But the song they play, it's used as like score almost. Uh, but it's so pretty. It literally just like them taking off, and then Baby Groot just like looking down as they take off. But just the song in the background. I don't know, something about it I think is really nice. I don't know the song off the top of my head, but then another song that sticks out, obviously, uh, at the very end, "Father and Son" by Cat Stevens. I mean, very very apt, right? Father and son talking about the relationship between either like Ego and Peter, or more specifically Yondu and Peter, because Yondu was that father figure that Peter was looking for the whole time, like a stepfather essentially. And then obviously that resonates with me, never appreciating the person that was there for me growing up, and I'm glad I have that appreciation now. I'm very happy for my relationship with my stepfather. So like emotionally, it resonates with me as well, obviously. Yeah, but then the song "Father and Son" playing in the background, and a lot of the lyrics, it's this conversation, well, between a father and his son. The father is imparting a kind of like wisdom onto the son. Very nice, and of course, like beautiful shots as well. And then I love in this one like how it ends off on Rocket, and then the next movie starts on Rocket and also ends on him again. I want to really talk about Guardians 3, but I think I'm gonna hold myself off just a little bit to make it non-spoiler. I don't know. No, I'll go into it. It's fine. But Guardians 3, love it. Obviously, so different from 2 even. And I mean, like I said, like 2 is a leap, but 3 is like an even bigger leap. Obviously, the animal cruelty stuff is really dark. And then just like finally getting this like backstory on Rocket and like all the cruelty he endured. Very sad in that way. And again, man, just visceral voice acting from him. Obviously, whenever his friends die, and he's just like screaming, crying, and it's crazy. And I mean, like, you don't really see something like that a lot of the time in like superhero stuff. And people kind of downplay the importance of superhero movies, but there's like lessons to be learned, and just stories to enjoy from them. And sometimes people talk on it as if it's lesser, but I don't know. I think it's great, and I feel like this movie is such a perfect example of that. And then in this too, also Peter's like emotional core, like trying to reconnect with Gamora, or like show Gamora like what they were, but him working past that, right? Um, I feel like that's also like such a good moment, and it has a very good conclusion by the end of it, because then I mean, to him, he finally learns that I can't keep running away, and I have to confront my future, but like to keep moving I need to confront the past. So he goes back to Earth to visit his grandfather that he left behind. So that was a good moment for Peter. And then obviously just like in the beginning where he's like coping so hard and grieving over this like loss of Gamora, he's just like fucking blackout, like drunk all the fucking time. And that's sad to see. Especially because like Peter's always been such kind of like a happy character. Emotionally troubled for sure, but generally pretty happy, right? So to see him like at this low is quite sad. And then yeah, Rocket, dang old Rocket. But that moment at the very end, well, actually, like a moment I specifically really like is whenever they finally wake Rocket up, and they're about to go fight. What's his name? The God guy. I'm blanking on his name. That's unfortunate. Or the character's name. The actor for him is also really good as well. So, like as like a main villain, he's just like evil, and that's kind of all you need to be. But yeah, he's great. He has that really good line read as well. The "How did you know?" is like like I made you, so how did you know? This like God complex, superiority complex that he has, and but yeah, But the moment I like is, yeah, so whenever they wake up Rocket and they're about to go fight him, and like Rocket's just like in his vehicle waiting around, but he's like humming and singing to the song. I mean, like he just came back from death basically, but this like emotional tie that he has to music, the tie that he's always kind of had with him as a kid, but kind of got reawoken. Being with Peter, this friendship that they have now, right? And music is so special to him. And then I like as well that Peter goes back for the Zune so he can give it to Rocket, as a gift whenever he leaves. I thought that was a nice moment. And obviously, man, there's like a couple fake outs in this. Fake out for Drax almost dying, and a fake out for Peter almost dying. But then Peter gets saved by Warlock, so it's all good. Another thing as well, Gamora and Nebula, their relationship. Obviously, it's a bit hurtful for Nebula because it's almost, well, like they're inverts now. Gamora acts more like Nebula did in the past, and Nebula is still trying to sort of find her place in a way, and by the end of it, she finds it. She thinks she needs to be a leader, and like lead this new society because she's become more caring and loving, and she feels like she can impart that and help people. Sort of the lesson that she learns at the end of Guardians 2 from Gamora. Whenever Gamora says that there's like hundreds of thousands of like other people hurting, other like little girls hurting out there, and we could probably be the people that can save them. And then obviously, Nebula probably wasn't very emotionally stable at that time to pick up such a task, but by the end of this she does, and I think it's like a nice send off for that character. I mean, hopefully she's in more stuff because I like her a lot. But if they were to send her off and just be like, now she just like runs this community, I feel like that'd be great for her, like a great ending spot. All this grief that she's gone through, and then to finally find some type of peace and community would be really great for that character. But yeah, the moment at the end, just the send off for the Guardians. Mantis leaves, Peter leaves, and it's just like Rocket and Drax. I feel like Drax's place in it as well is like also quite nice because Drax has always just been like the stupid one, and then like his relationship with Mantis, he almost sees Mantis as like a daughter figure in a lot of ways. But their relationship, so Drax seeing Mantis go off is quite sad. But then also Drax opening up emotionally as well, because that's always been another thing too with his what is it, like his race of people. They're like emotionally literal, or just like literal people. But by the end of it, he does have more emotion and humanity to him, and seeing him cry, seeing him laugh, and then obviously at the very end seeing him dance, it's just nice. And then obviously, man, I love that final scene. It probably like was one of my favorite like superhero movie like moments, like in so long. And again, just like so emotional too, and they're just dancing, they're just happy to be alive, happy to have each other. And then again, like the movie closes off on Rocket again, and like his like little like shout that he does as the song ends is beautiful. But yeah, great. I love the Guardians, and I hope to see more of them. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, again, like the Marvel stuff is like kind of wonky right now. They're trying to balance too much, I feel like, and they're not putting focus in on some of the characters that I would like them to put focus on. But oh well, maybe I gotta write somebody a letter over there and tell them to put Shang-Chi in some more shit. Put the Guardians in more stuff. But I mean, I guess we'll see what happens in Spider-Man, right? And speaking of Spider-Man, going to talk about Sam Raimi and just Spider-Man in general, because Spider-Man's a character I like a lot. But with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, it's unfortunate too, because I feel like people will say like, oh, you only like him because of nostalgia. It really isn't even nostalgia. The movies are just good. Like, I don't know. I guess we'll just nail them out, 1, 2, 3. But in one, man, everything about it works for me so well. And again, like Sam Raimi came from a horror background, so I like when there's just like smaller horror elements, and they mainly come from the Green Goblin. But starting at the very beginning, just moments I like with Peter, just establishing him as a character. He is like, he's kind of like a nerd loser, but he loves Mary Jane, and I feel like that's really what they're trying to set up. And then obviously his relationship with his like aunt and uncle. Um, I like that as well. And then his relationship to Harry. Harry is such a what's the word, like such a consistent part of Peter's life, and I do like that he's so prominent in all three of the movies. But yeah, so just like establishing Peter and establishing his relationship with all these different people, Harry, Mary Jane, aunt and uncle, but then also his relationship to his villains. In this one it's Green Goblin, so connecting Norman Osborn with Peter Parker at the start, like it just like works like so well. And then obviously Spider Bite, right? And then we get his transformation scene. It's nice because he kind of like coils himself up like in a little cocoon. But then while that's happening, the parallels, because Norman Osborn is becoming the Green Goblin, and that scene like has like some light horror elements to it. It's also very funny as well. In places I like whenever it's like very exaggerated, like him like opening his eyes, and then like the musical sting, back to formula, and he tosses the guy. It's very crazy, and then he jumps out and but so like I feel like if you're like a younger kid, I mean I was a younger kid when I watched the movie, it's like, whoa, this part's like kind of scary a little bit. This guy's evil. But then obviously Peter's transformation, and then him getting used to his powers. That's a scene that comes up as well in like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Him like kind of getting revenge on his bully a little bit. Uh, I like in this though, it's not as malicious as it is in Andrew Garfield's, but in Andrew Garfield it works, but in a very different way. I'll get to that. But in this, like, it is just kind of like a self-defense thing. He like Peter is like finally able to fight back, and he does. And initially he feels kind of like proud of himself in a way, but then like it kind of turns on him. Like people like still think he's just some like geek freak. Um, and then like a thing with the Spider-Man stuff. Obviously, like, great power, great responsibility, but you give that kind of power to anybody, and like there is a kind of selfishness that you might have with it initially, and of course like Peter was no different. He's only human, and he's young, uh, so obviously like he tries to find a way to like kind of pimp it a bit and like make some money off of it, and goes to the wrestling thing. uh, and then that conversation he has with Uncle Ben in the car again, also with not seeing what's in front of you, not appreciating what's in front of you. Uncle Ben as this father figure, because that comes back at the very end. Um, but like in the car, like obviously Uncle Ben is trying to impart some wisdom onto Peter, and Peter at that time is so, obviously because he's like a teenager growing up, but then also this like newfound power. Uh, it's like he's maturing like at twice the speed essentially, and he's like trying to find new ways to balance. So it makes him a bit angsty, angry, and like unsure of himself in different ways. But man, that scene in the car, the like and like what does Uncle Ben say? I don't mean to preach, and I know I'm not your father. And then the instant Peter snaps with then stop pretending to be. And that scene always hits me. I feel like it always hits me. You just see pain in both of their eyes. You see pain in Uncle Ben's, because he loves Peter and he's trying to help him. He sees that he's struggling, but of course Peter's like kind of walled off, uh, and he gets shut down. So that's hurtful. But then obviously like hurtful to kind of hear that this person that you've raised and loved, and they kind of reject you in a moment where all you're trying to do is just be kind. And but I guess it's a testament, right? They're hurting so much they can't even listen to you. But then obviously that pain and like regret that Peter has in his eyes, like once he says that, like he almost wants to take it back, but he doesn't. Again, regret. I feel like regret is like such a huge part of like Peter's character, guilt as well, right? Um, but then obviously like he goes fight. He goes to fight, and he wins, and he doesn't get paid his money, and then it's also like another selfish thing. A lot of bad things tend to happen to Peter whenever he's selfish, uh, and I guess that's just like the tragedy that kind of comes with being Spider-Man, I suppose. Because obviously he lets the robber go, but that's the robber that ends up killing Uncle Ben. And that scene is pretty hurtful too. I do like this rendition of Uncle Ben's death a lot better. Um, it's weird. Like despite all the people around them, it's still such like kind of like tender moment between Peter and Ben before Ben dies. Uh, and then yeah, and Spider-Man just out for blood. He goes after the killer. Uh, and then obviously whenever he like unmasks him and sees him, it's like again the pain, right? It's like, well, this is like the consequence of my actions, consequence of my selfishness. Uh, and then obviously the guy tries to take advantage of that vulnerability and kill Peter, but Spider Sense kicks in and Peter kills him, or not directly, but indirectly. Um, that's another thing too. I love how emotional Peter Parker is in this, and then obviously the first thing he does right after he just like runs away and like cries to himself for a little bit, and then he goes back to Aunt May, and I love that scene a lot too. Whenever he goes back, goes back home, and it's just like the wide shot, like we just see the living room area, like with the door, like Peter walks in and he, like Aunt May like comforts him, and there's no dialogue, it's just soft music, but you know exactly what they're talking about, the emotions they're going through. Beautiful scene. And then obviously we get some more Green Goblin and the transition to the graduation. But then post graduation, for Peter, like he gets home and again he just goes into his room and he cries. He's so broken up about the loss of Uncle Ben, and it's so apparent. But all that stuff I like a lot. And then obviously into his adulthood, like he goes finally into the city, starts living in the city with Harry. I like it as well, like also developing like his relationship with Mary Jane. Uh, but like another consistent theme with the movie as well, or with this movie specifically, is Peter having to keep secrets from his best friend, having to keep secrets from Harry, and how that kind of weighs on him as well. Um, Again, it's like set up in this, but it pays off in the second, and then has a conclusion in the third. Uh, but yeah, so but yeah, like onto Green Goblin, like I guess the sort of like horror elements, which are also like quite nice for me too. Again, like using fear as an emotion. Uh, I like that scene of the fight inside the burning building, because you just feel like the woman crying, and then he like turns around, like the scream and stuff, and he starts fighting Spider-Man. Very cool scene, honestly, very good. Uh, Again, more development between Peter and MJ whenever Aunt May gets attacked and sent to the hospital. Peter and MJ are finally able to have like a kind of tender moment with one another. Uh, but yeah, and then the whole ending confrontation with the Goblin on the bridge. Uh, this idea of choices, right, and choices like leading you to different things, which is sort of a thing that comes up in Spider-Man's. I say Spider-Man, duh, Spider-Man. In Tom Holland's third movie, whenever he fights the Goblin as well, the uh, no good deed goes unpunished. And that's kind of what Goblin is saying to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man right here. Heroes got to make the choices, and they'll love you and hate you, and eventually just resent you because you're trying to make the choices for yourself. Uh, so that's kind of what he gives him. He just gives him the choice, but obviously him being Spider-Man, he does both, which is also a theme that comes up in Spider-Verse as well, which I really love. But yeah, so Peter's able to save both, and then he has that final fight with Goblin in the broken building, and Goblin is fucking tearing him apart. It's sad to see, right? It's always it's funny because Goblin says people love a hero, but they love more to see one fall, and he's proven wrong on that. The whole city of New York that comes together to help Spider-Man cheer him on, and then obviously in that final fight. Seeing seeing Spider-Man get completely fucked up, it's sort of sad, honestly. It's sad to me. um, and then obviously Spider-Man's able to spin it around, but then that's where the like another emotional core kind of comes into, like Norman trying to be like a father figure to Peter. uh, again, just like Willem Dafoe's acting in that scene, like almost kind of sells it how like cowardly Norman acts, but you know, obviously as a disguise because it's really the Goblin trying to get to Peter. Uh, but then you know, but that's where the lesson learned comes in. Peter finally accepts Uncle Ben as the father figure to him, you know, somebody to respect and look up to, and somebody that's like guided him properly, you know, just to do the right thing. And then obviously Goblin's death, and then again with the keeping secrets from Harry, right? That's the last thing Norman tells Peter to do. You know, like just don't tell Harry. And obviously that's going to weigh on him, especially in the second one. Because in the second one, that's like such a huge part, and then obviously it gets revealed to Harry that Peter's Spider-Man. Um, but again, like that's Peter's best friend. He has to keep everything from him while being Spider-Man, while dealing with Mary Jane, while also like dealing with Aunt May. Uh, Again, everything just like adds up in Peter's life and affects Spider-Man's life. Uh, but yeah, the second one, man, I love the second one. Uh, Fucking love Alfred Molina Green Doc Ock. Uh, Honestly, I'm probably gonna finish Spider-Man and go back inside because holy fuck, it's fucking cold. Yeah, so Alfred Molina, and then setting him up as Doc Ock again. Like I talked about the Spider-Man PS4 game, and I love the way they set Doc Ock up in that, and I think I'll talk about that even more at some point. But the Doc Ock in this as well, and like you know, like blending Peter Parker and Doctor Octavius like together, kindred spirits in a way, right? They both have this mind for science, and then of course I love the words of wisdom that he imparts onto Peter. You know, intelligence. What is it? Intelligence isn't a privilege, it's a gift, and use it for the good of mankind. And then obviously that's what Peter tells Doc Ock at the very end. But then also what he ends up learning from Aunt May as well, he imparts onto Doc Ock as well. And that's sort of what I was referring to with Guardians, like you know, something like the planted seed at one part, like coming back by the very end of it. Um, but yeah, great. And then you know, again with like the smaller horror elements, Doc Ock's initial debut, as it were, whenever he attacks all of the doctors in the office, and you just like see the arms. That's such a great scene. And the music is good too. I love the music in this. The Danny Elfman score, it's so good. You know, Goblin has like a really good theme. Spider-Man has a good theme. Um, but yeah, it's also a very funny movie too. Very dramatic as well, obviously with like Peter's relationship to Mary Jane, and then you know the tragedy of his relationship to Harry. Uh, but you know some scenes I like, especially early on. Again, like more development on Peter's love for MJ and Harry, kind of seeing that, but then also this like divide between him and Harry a little bit because Harry knows Peter's keeping secrets from him in you know some way or another. But I love that scene after Peter's birthday party. You know, like Aunt May's asleep and he goes to wake her up, and like Aunt May gives him like the $20 that, and the way that actress like breaks down on him whenever Peter doesn't want to accept it because you know Aunt May is going through a rough time as well. She's like being evicted essentially because she can't make payments. Again, just things in Peter's life and like the other people that are effective and like how that are you know affected and how that affects him. But man, that scene is rough, you know, to me at least. And then obviously like the single tear that comes from Peter's eyes because he sees how much Aunt May is hurting, but then also being reminded of Uncle Ben and how much that hurts him. And then you know, and he goes back to his like shitty little apartment, and he's alone, and he just sits there with himself. It's sad. Uh, but yeah, and then you know he's having the personal drama with being Spider-Man, and the you know the scene he has like whenever he goes to the doctor's office, and you know he's like, oh, like in my dream I'm Spider-Man, and then obviously the advice the doctor gives him, you know, like maybe you're not supposed to be Spider-Man, which I think is a thought that kind of haunts Peter in a lot of ways because that's such like a core part of his identity, you know, being Spider-Man. and that's just out of respect for Uncle Ben. But he almost feels like this isn't the life he's supposed to be living. Like inner turmoil. It's super interesting, and I love that a lot. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think on some more things that I especially like. Um, I like, yeah, that, and then obviously like the whole raindrops falling on my head scene. But then again, just like that guilt that comes back, because like obviously Peter, he sees the guy getting mugged in the alleyway, and he's like so ready to do something, but he's, again, this like conflict with who he is. He's like, well, I'm not that guy anymore. Like I go save people. I'm the coward Peter Parker again. I'm not. I shouldn't be like risking myself like that. And it just weighs on him. Like you see how like even though like he didn't do anything, he's so defeated. And the way he like just turns his back on this guy. Uh, but then obviously it's nice too with the burning building scene, and he acts as Peter. That heroism is still so core to him, even without this identity of Spider-Man. And I love that moment a lot too. He goes in the building and he saves the kid. Comes back out. But then it's weird because like it's a nice win for him, and I'm pretty sure he felt like good in the moment, that he was finally able to like do something and be helpful again. But then it turns to tragedy quickly whenever he hears the firefighter say that two other people died. Guilt and regret again, because I'm pretty sure the thought process is like, well, like if I was Spider-Man, if I was still doing that, I would have been able to save everybody. And that's a theme that comes up in Spider-Verse as well. Peter B. Parker, because Miles Morales and that says like Spider-Man always saves the day, or like I can do both. Those like sentiments. Obviously, like seeing Spider-Man as this hero, I feel like if you were living in that world, you would just see all the heroic acts, all the wins, right? But nobody's with Spider-Man. Nobody's with Peter other than himself, and he sees the losses, and he takes those to heart. And obviously that's a moment where we finally see like a major loss. Two people died, and Peter feels like it's on him. That's a kind of theme I've always found interesting. This like just like weight of the world, right? Everything when you think about it affects you in some type of way, uh, directly or indirectly. And I feel like it's almost normal in some ways to take a responsibility for things that happen, especially bad things. I don't know why. People never want to, uh, claim positivity. Sometimes I feel like, or me specifically, I don't like to claim positivity. Uh, whether that be like good things I accomplish, just like, well, like, yeah, I did that and that was that, or like receiving compliments sort of thing. Uh, but whenever bad things happen, those tend to weigh on me a lot more heavier, uh, as they do on Peter. But it's just because it's like, well, like what more could I've done? Why didn't I do more? You know, something to think about, I suppose, for myself. But yeah, and then again, he just goes back to his apartment, and he sits there and thinks, like what else is there to do? Uh, and then yeah, I love his final confrontation with Doc Ock, obviously. But the scene with Aunt May, that kind of like re-inspires him to be Spider-Man again. Uh, that whole speech, honestly, is like so heartfelt. Uh, everybody, uh, everybody, what is it? Everybody needs a hero, right? Uh, or there's a hero in all of us. Uh, I get emotional whenever I think about that scene again, because I think the delivery is so good, and obviously with Peter and the way it resonates with him in that moment, you can tell he's like taking it to heart, that like softer expression on his face. Somebody who keeps us honest and kind, and even if we like want to give up, and like sacrifice the things we want the most, our dreams. Sometimes you have to push aside selfishness in order to be of service to others. Again, not like a necessity, but just a kindness, and a kindness that you can give to people. Just being there sometimes. But I think that's a great scene. And then obviously he turns that around on Doc Ock at the very end. because obviously it's, you know, Doc Ock's dream, this like machine, and he feels like he lost everything because of that moment, and this is like redemption for him in a way, and he's kind of blinded by that, um, you know, and like he almost like kills the whole city just to achieve it, even though in reality it would have achieved nothing, and it obviously doesn't bring his wife back. And that's, you know, like kind of a small core thing with Peter as well, like him being Spider-Man. Like obviously it does more good, but you know it doesn't bring back Uncle Ben, but he can do it as a kindness to him, and then obviously like a kindness to the others that he hopes along the way, which obviously like more beneficial in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, great movie. Love the second one, and the third one. Uh, Obviously a bit over the place, but the core I think is the Sandman stuff. I love Sandman and that, and then you know him just being a guy who's like trying to survive, and then you know he becomes a villain through circumstance. So you know he was a villain trying to reform, but he gets these powers, same as Peter, but he uses them for more selfish deeds, but also sort of selfless because he's trying to just like, you know, gain money to help his daughter. But then also with Peter and this idea of forgiveness that comes back at the very end, is like a very nice sentiment as well. Um, Obviously like all the black suit stuff is pretty cool, but the moment I like a lot is, you know, the fight in the subway station, underground. Uh, you know, do you remember the old man you killed in cold blood? And it's like, well, you know, like what's it matter to you? Like, and just like that line read, the everything, like as he shouts it and jumps toward the Sandman. So crazy. But then also the scene afterwards where like Peter like seems like proud of himself almost, for killing off Sandman, and you know he goes over to Aunt May to gloat, and again he's like, it's, you know, the mirror is just like pointed at himself. He's like, well, you know, like it was a good thing, right? Like the guy who killed Uncle Ben is dead, like we should be happy. But you know Aunt May tells him, it's like, you know, we shouldn't be living with hate in our hearts, and you know this idea of revenge, because that's not what Uncle Ben would have wanted. And again, that's where the idea of forgiveness kind of comes back onto Peter by the very end. You know, Sandman like knows he hurt Peter in a way, so you know he's not even asking like to be forgiven, like he feels like he doesn't deserve it really, but Peter still does. um, and that was a nice moment. I like that moment as well. But then I also like too, like when you get more insight onto the events that happened. Uncle Ben, also like, it's a line in one of the other movies, in the second one, where Peter says like Uncle Ben died that night for being the only one who did the right thing, and I mean it's true. Also, no good deed goes unrewarded, I suppose, but in a tragic way. Um, but yeah, you know, like we see the flashback, and we see that Uncle Ben was trying to help Sandman, but you know, things happen in a moment, and you can't take them back sometimes. But then obviously like Harry dying, uh, quite sad as well. But great movie, honestly. People rag on it, but it's not bad. I just feel like it's because one and two are so good. The third one kind of seems like a letdown, but in some ways I think it's pretty good. Um, quick thing on Andrew. Just like emotional core stuff that I really like. I like, again, just because like his version of oh sorry, his version of Peter Parker is like so angsty. You know, like more so compared to Toby, more so compared to Tom. I feel like Tom is like probably the most lighthearted. Uh, but with Andrew, like he just like has like a lot of like resentments, you know, to to a lot of things in his life. Like, you know, he's felt like he's been like dealt a bad hand, and you know, in some ways he has, but he still has like a loving aunt, loving uncle. Um, I love the moment whenever, you know, after he gets his powers and you know he gets his revenge on Flash, and Uncle Ben kind of confronts him on that. He's like, oh, you know, like you must feel like pretty proud of yourself, huh? And you know, Peter, he takes it as it is, and I feel like initially he was gonna say like yeah, you know, like I finally stood up to him, but he sees the angle that Uncle Ben is trying to go to, and he becomes defensive. He's like, well, like, you know, but you know, like you weren't here, like you didn't see like the other people he was hurting. I was doing it to help people. You know, Peter's trying to like twist the narrative in a way, like, you know, just to make himself feel better. But it's cope really because he got revenge to make himself feel better, and that all there was to it. You know, like he was using the power irresponsibly. Uh, his lash out on Uncle Ben, pretty rough. But I like, uh, I guess the major thing I like emotionally in this is with the voice message that Uncle Ben leaves to Peter, and you know the way that comes back at the very end. Uh, I thought it was good. You know, like just come home, Peter. You know, like me and Aunt May, like we love you, and like we know you're hurting, but you know, like just like dealing with it on your own, like doesn't help. Like, that's also like another struggle, like Spider-Man struggle as well. Like again, like just like taking the weight onto yourself. Uh, and then Spider-Man 2, Gwen Stacy death, I guess. That's all there is on Andrew. Uh, Enjoyable enough, but you know, whatever. Tom Holland. Um, I think they're good. I like them. The moments that are stand out to me in the first one. Obviously, whenever he like fucks up on the boat and he has to give up the suit, you know, again, just like tough on him, like as a developing hero, right? To like suffer such a loss and like having to like get help and you know not really being appreciated because he wants to like prove himself. Uh, and then that final interaction, his like Spider-Man moment in that, uh, again with like the Tom Holland Spider-Man, like so childlike. But that line read he has, like whenever the building is collapsed on him, and you know, it's just like just like begging, like so desperately for help. It's sad in a way because you know he's just a kid. Uh, but yeah, that gets me. And then obviously like just like finding that strength and like pushing himself up. I really wish they didn't fucking do the Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark voiceover. I really wish it was just that moment where he's looking in the puddle and you know he sees the reflections. He sees himself as Spider-Man, himself as Peter, and you know they're one and the same in reality. Um, and you know he finds that strength of you know like within himself as being Spider-Man, and he's able to lift himself up. And I think that's such a great moment. Um, No Way Home, or Far From Home rather. Far From Home. I think it's good too. Again, this Spider-Man is like in such a different spot compared to the other two because he's like in a world with heroes. But again, just like the responsibility, right? This like weight of being an Avenger, but also still just like wanting to live his life. You know, he feels like he can't have both those things. And it's you know like it's just like one or the other. And then of course just like every single time he makes a choice it like backfires on him and things get worse when he makes that selfish choice. um, but yeah, and I feel like that's such a consistent you know theme throughout that second movie of his. And then the third one, I guess just saying goodbye, right? Saying goodbye to this old identity of Peter Parker, having to let go of his friends and let go of like everything he's kind of built up is quite sad too. uh, But yeah, it's weird. I feel like, well, I mean, I only talked about Guardians and Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire specifically. And I feel like I'd even say all I wanted to say. It's just really fucking cold out here, but I didn't want to like bail on this. More superhero stuff, so I'm just gonna split this up. Like this is already an hour, just about. Uh, Quick rundown. Blah 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 blah. Some other things I'll talk about eventually. Gonna talk about Batman, Dark Knight, and Rob Pattinson. Looking forward to talking about Logan. Looking forward, you know, you can say they aren't superheroes, but Ninja Turtles and Sonic, and then also like a few others. But I feel like those I can like skip past a little faster, maybe. Maybe I'll linger on the Dark Knight. Who knows? No, I feel like I can probably talk about all those in the next one. But yeah, so this is an hour, and this was mainly just Guardians and Spider-Man. Um, which is okay with me. I feel like I got most of it, but like I just love those movies so much. I love all three Guardians movies. I like seeing them in Infinity War and Endgame, and with Tobey Maguire. I just absolutely love Tobey Maguire, and I get like you know, whenever I'm like scrolling on TikTok, I get a lot of like Spider-Man edits. But man, there's some specifically that are really, really good. I love this one especially, where it's kind of like a fake out because the title is something like five things like I don't like about Spider-Man, and it's just like all of them like are positives essentially. It's like I don't like whenever people call him like soft. I don't like when people call him like not silly. I don't like when people call him this or that, and like they're basically like confronting the criticisms that people have of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. You know, again, just like that nostalgia thing I was talking about. I don't like it's not nostalgia at all to me, at least. Of course, I watched those movies when I was a kid, but I feel like as a kid, I didn't really get the emotional core of the movies. I just thought it was cool to see Spider-Man swing around, Spider-Man fight and win. Um, but then obviously now, like all the more like dramatic elements of the movie, right? And I appreciate those moments like way, way more, and just like learning lessons from them, like just being a better person. I think it's great. But yeah, so I love that TikTok a lot. If I could find some way to link it, I would, because it's a very good one. But yeah, and then Guardians, connection to music, I guess, is also why I love them so much as well. But then like just them as like a family, I think is so beautiful in a lot of ways, and those movies look really nice. Um, yeah. So shout out to the Guardians of the Galaxy, and shout out to Spider-Man in all iterations. I just like Spider-Man. I think he's such a great character. But that's it for this one. Yeah, definitely gonna have to split this one up. Hour long. Didn't expect it. I honestly thought I'd be able to talk about everything within an hour. That's not gonna happen. And it's cold. It's still cold. Yeah, like I had my coffee in here and it was warm. It's fucking freezing now. It's a nice block. So I'm gonna have to go inside and warm it up. But yeah, I guess. Well, thanks to me, because I'll probably listen to this and kick myself in the head for everything I didn't mention, and me being a little bitch and complaining about the cold weather. But I don't know, man. I always feel quite bad about these because I feel like there's so much I don't say. Regret again. I just regret a lot. Even in some of the other videos too. I mean, this is complete tangent. Like the video's over. I'm just talking about stuff now. But yeah, like in the other emotional movie segment, I feel like I wanted to talk more about some specific movies, and maybe I'll go off at some point and like take some proper notes, because like I have my notebook, but it's literally just like titles of things I want to talk about. I feel like I'm confident about talking about things off the top of my head, which obviously isn't true. I ramble a lot. I and a lot. Um, it's just difficult for me sometimes to talk about things I like, especially. Uh, I heard recently that it's sort of like the weakest form of connection in some ways, which I can see the uh, the insight on that perspective. Talking about how good something isn't necessarily your experience. It's your experience of something else, if that makes sense. It doesn't even make sense to me, obviously. Let me try to word that better. Um, so like with me talking about the movies I really like, right? Um, I think the way that it becomes transformative in a way is whenever I have the smaller sides, whenever I kind of bring myself into my life, how the art relates to me, and why I like it for like an oddly specific reason, and how that resonates with my personal life. I feel like this person was saying that it's kind of shallow to like talk about media you like sometimes, or like try sharing that with others as a form of connection. Um, because it doesn't really cost you anything to what's the word? It doesn't cost you anything, I guess, to say, oh yeah, I like this. You know, like that doesn't really represent who you are. But I feel in talking specifically about why that resonates with you, the emotions it can bring up, uh, and how this like can relate to things in your life. Maybe something like you learned from it, or like something that kind of holds dear. Maybe it was an experience that you also experienced in your life, and how that relates to you, what it made you feel in the moment. Um, I don't think that's shallow at all. and it is quite vulnerable to share things you like initially, in a way shallow, sure, but obviously, like, once you dig deeper into the vulnerability, I feel like it's fair to make connections through media in that way. um, yeah, but I mean, like, I guess back to me. I feel like sometimes I like hold back on certain things, again, just like scared of being vulnerable, which is why I thought this was a good idea. And again, I'm just like using the media as like a stepping stone to talk a bit about myself and expose like certain vulnerabilities. Um, yeah, so I mean, hopefully that kind of comes across in some ways. It comes across to me, but again, it's because I know me, right? Uh, Being understood is kind of important to me now, and this has always been like a nice little project just to put myself out there in some ways and just talk about things, because sometimes I'm at home and I don't say a word for hours on end. There was a time too where I was especially lonely, and I didn't say anything for like 2 days. I realized it didn't say a single word. But yeah. But this is good. I mean, even then, just like talking aloud, I think means a lot more, because like obviously I've said before, I write a lot, but writing and saying are two very different things, and obviously thinking and saying are very different things. Um, but so I guess I'll probably rewatch this, and like I already said, just kick myself because of everything I didn't say, right? Uh, but maybe that'll be a stepping stone, right? To just like kind of come back and like write like a proper like script, uh, and just like things to like really go into depth about, and again, like how they relate to me, like what they made me feel in those moments. I feel like it could be good, but that'll probably happen down the line, just like revisiting things. But I guess that's it. That's it. I'm very fucking cold. Very fucking cold. Take care.